Today we're going to talk about the final design phase for the Twin Cities to Milwaukee to Chicago Intercity Passenger Rail Project, also known as the TCMC. This project is being coordinated on behalf of WISDOT and MnDOT for the project. So again, thank you all for joining us. For our agenda today, we're going to give a brief TCMC project overview. Then we're going to talk about the locations and areas of improvement associated with the corridor. And then we're going to talk about some of our next steps and where we're going after this public involvement. So on the screen here, you can see the map shows the TCMC corridor highlighted in green, as well as all the station locations along the corridor. This corridor stretches from Chicago to Milwaukee and then ultimately up to St. Paul with immediate stops all along the corridor. These are primarily existing stations today. The other component of the map that you see on the screen is it does show intercity bus services as well that shows connections between these station locations, the TCMC route, and other destinations within the states of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois. So what are some of the features and benefits of the TCMC project? This will be looking to add an additional round trip within the corridor between Chicago, Milwaukee, and the Twin Cities. This is along the existing Amtrak Amtrak Empire Builder service and the Hiawatha service. The overall corridor is about 411 miles. It will be operating at max authorized speed of 79 miles per hour. The schedule that has been developed is going to be allowed to have both a morning and midday departures from each end of the corridor. And as I alluded to on the previous map, that all existing stations within the corridor will continue to receive service as part of the TCMC. Some of the benefits associated with this project is that it'll allow for additional job growth within this corridor. With having the ability of additional rail service, allowing users to be able to travel between multiple destinations. Along with that will be additional economic development and bring in additional businesses into the corridor. One of the key features or benefits of the project will be allow to have reduced freight delays or an increased fluidity between both freight meets and passenger meets. This is going to reduce congestion, as one of those outcomes of reducing the congestion and increasing fluidity is we're going to see the crossings and downtimes being reduced throughout the project. One of the other elements that this project will be doing is addressing some of the safety concerns at the at-grade crossings in the multiple locations that we're doing work. So let's talk a little bit about the project timeline for the TCMC project. This is a project that has started back in January of 2025. Or 2015. We have already completed a majority in all of the planning process up to this point. In this phase, the final design phase, we are working on the engineering component to prepare final design plans to allow a contractor to go out and build the various components of the project. On the top bar, we show where we are right now. Right now, we are, as noted, is doing the final design components as well as the environmental permitting clearances for all the construction activities. The next bar closer to the bottom is the public involvement. We are here doing our public involvement outreach now in the winter of 2022. There will be additional public involvement that will happen in the first and second quarters of 2023. On the bottom right-hand corner, we show where construction can begin. Construction could potentially begin as early as July of 2023. Looking at doing some early material ordering and coordination with the CP Railway on several of the elements that they will be doing themselves up and down the corridor. Construction is tentatively scheduled to be concluded by 2025. So let's look at some of the areas of improvement that we'll be looking at. A majority of the improvements are concentrated around the La Crosse, La Crescent, and Winona area. This was identified as a very congested part of the overall corridor. There are 5 primary projects that we'll be talking about. There is a double track project in La Crosse directly adjacent to the depot. Directly on the west side of the river is a project called the Mississippi River Bridge that will be looking at track reconfiguration for the approaches. River Junction is an existing yard that will be doing some additional track work to help with that fluidity in the overall corridor. And then in Winona, there are 2 projects. One is upgrading an existing siding, and then doing some track reconfiguration at an existing control point called Tower CK. So we're going to talk about each of the projects individually, and we're going to start on the east end of the corridor in La Crosse and work our way to the west. The La Crosse project area is highlighted on your screen here in orange. The primary component of this project is looking to reestablish the double track section through this limit between the yard on the east limits and the bridge going over the Mississippi River Bridge or over the Mississippi River on the west end. We'll be adding additional tracks, reconstructing the existing platform. There isn't a historic awning at the depot itself that will not be impacted as part of this project. Another key component of this project will be doing at-grade crossing work at 2 crossings on the very east end, St. Cloud and Liberty Street and Avon and Hager Street. With the additional track going through these crossings, we'll be redoing the approaches and adjusting the at-grade warning devices in these at these locations. Directly east or directly west across the river is the Mississippi River Bridge project. We'll be reconfiguring the track curve approaches here, allowing for increased speeds across the bridge. Directly on the bridge itself, we'll be upgrading some of the special track work components, allowing for that speed. And the pace that we'll be achieving with this project will be increasing the speed across the Mississippi River bridges from 10 miles an hour to 15 miles an hour. This 5-mile increase really helps with the congestion and the fluidity in the overall network related to both freight and passenger trains. Just a short distance away, further to the west, is what we call the River Junction Yard project. This will be a project to add a second mainline track to allow increases speeds. On the very top of the page is the junction called River Junction, a control point that connects 2 subdivisions, the Marquette subdivision and the Tomah subdivision, where they converge. We'll be modifying the Y track there highlighted in orange to allow increased speeds of 25 miles an hour, and then reconfiguring the lead tracks into the yards and turnouts to allow freight trains and passenger trains to use both freight trains to allow them to get off the mainline tracks and allow passenger trains to pass within the corridor. Heading further to the north, the first project that we're going to discuss in the Winona area is called the Winona Siding. This location is an existing siding track that we'll be powering up. We'll be adding new wayside signals at each end of the existing siding and replacing the turnouts with new number 15 turnouts. This will allow the siding to be utilized from a remote dispatcher for passes and meets between freight and passenger trains. We'll have multiple at-grade crossing upgrades throughout this siding, looking at replacing crossing surfaces and upgrading warning devices. The last project in Winona and for the TCMC project is the project called Tower CK. We'll be connecting the mainline track with the CP Waseca subdivision on the west hand or on the left-hand side of the orange limits. We'll be adding power switches. This will allow for multiple railroads that operate in this location to be able to switch, pass, and meet all in this location. It really helps with the conflicts and the ability to keep the corridor moving fluid and keeping passenger trains and freight trains from meeting there at the Winona siding or at the Winona station. Another key component of this location will be the Beer Street at-grade crossing. We'll be looking at doing an upgrade there with the approaches and the warning devices and smoothing out that at-grade crossing. So what are some of the next steps that we'll be doing? Right now we're in the public meeting and comment section here in winter of 2022. As I alluded to in the prior slides, that we'll be doing additional outreach in spring of 2023, first and second quarters. We're on schedule right now to complete the final design phase in summer of 2023, with the anticipation of starting construction as soon as 2024. Train service can begin once all agreements are in place as soon as 2025 or as soon as 2023, and could happen, could conclude services starting as late as 2025. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending our public meeting, our virtual public meeting. Please visit our project website to leave any comments or questions. Those links are on the right-hand side of that. And with that, I'd like to say thanks again for attending.